Now, there are absolutely loads of awesome new sports bikes on the market for 2023, but which one should you choose? Well, here are our picks in price order ascending as always, and of all the lists we've done this year, this sports bike one is by far and away the most expensive. So let's start with something even half realistic in terms of price, and that's the new Extrema edition of the RS 660. And the foundations were already pretty good. I think it's fair to say the RS 660 has been a hit since it was introduced, and that's because it's got a perky parallel twin engine, great handling, and a comprehensive suite of gadgets, all at a decent price point, I may add. It's basically already the perfect sports bike for the road, but the Extrema has a few little tweaks to make it even more sporty, like the GP-inspired paint job, the SC Project carbon silencer, some carbon bodywork, the single-seat cover, and the option to flip the gear shift for a race shifting pattern. But it's not just a bunch of bling, because it actually sheds 3 kilograms over the standard model, which brings the dry weight in at an even more impressive 166 kilograms. No price as of yet, but the standard bike sells for just over 10 grand, and the last special they made, the Twins Cup limited edition, went for 10,600, so I'd expect between 11 and 12 grand tops for this one, which still, to be fair, looks like pretty good value to me. But from here on in, we're getting into the serious money, and next up we've got the new and updated BMW S1000RR at just over 17 grand. Now, this was already a massively accomplished sports bike, but for 2023, we've got a whole bunch of updates that take things up to another level of performance. There are engine tweaks that trickle down from the super premium M1000RR, an updated quick shifter, changes to the final drive ratio, a new geometry for the chassis, revised aerodynamics, and some trick-sounding new tech. The one that stood out to me in particular is the new steering angle sensor, and that feeds into the new slide control that'll let you power slide the bike out to a predefined steering angle before bringing things back into check before you overcook it. And it does the same when you're sliding it on the rear brake, and it'll release it just before you ditch it. Very clever stuff. Now, some of the bikes on this list are track only, the most affordable of which is this new R1 GYTR at 25 grand. GYTR is the performance division at Yamaha, and with all the trick bits that this comes with, it's not possible to homologate it for road use. You get blank race-ready bodywork without any lighting, a track-specific exhaust system from Aprilia, and GYTR's adjustable ECU complete with computer interface. On top of that, you get an upgraded chain and sprocket, Bridgestone R11 tires, steel brake hoses, GYTR brake calipers, and Brembo's racing pads. And if that's still not enough performance and spec for you, then you can request some extras from Yamaha, like the World Superbike style swing arm, proper top draw Olin suspension, a carbon subframe, carbon fairings, and a large capacity fuel tank, to name but a few. Basically, you can make your own race-ready superbike, providing you've got the cash. Thankfully, we've got a sensible road bike up next, though, in the form of Honda's CBR 1000RR Fireblade, but this time with a little bit of a twist. You see, this is the snappily named Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade John McGuinness 100th TT Start Replica Edition, and the idea is, of course, to celebrate John McGuinness's 100 starts with an extra special finish. So you'll notice the paint job that's pretty close to that of his bike that he actually raced that 100 start on, and it also gets a few nice extra bits like the gold rim tape, carbon front mudguard and rear hugger, pillion seat cowl, a bigger windscreen, and Metzler Racetech RR tires. Just 30 of them will be made, and the limited edition number of each bike will be featured on a plaque on the headstock. Plus, the tank is signed by John McGuinness himself, and there's also some nice detail in the film strip that runs across the bike, which features pictures of all of his starts aboard a Honda. Now, before we get onto the next bike, I'd just like to say a massive thanks to Ridge for sponsoring this video. Ridge make these super slim little wallets and key cases, and you see, when I'm out on the bike, I like to carry as little as possible. You don't want your keys jangling about or a big wallet bulging in your pocket, and so these two little bad boys are absolutely perfect for bikers. Firstly, with the wallet, not only does it have plenty of space for your cards there, but also it's got the cash clip on the back, and it's RFID blocking so that your cards won't get swiped. The key case, on the other hand, it is nice and sleek, and it can hold up to 6 keys, and it's got this little tension spring that keeps them nice and snug in there so they don't make any noise. Now, both of them come with a lifetime warranty, so that's extra reassuring. Plus, they've got a huge range of styles and colors to suit pretty much all tastes. And if you're that way inclined, you can probably even find one to match your bike. Personally, I'm normally wearing black, so I've got a black one of each, but if you're a bit more cheerful than me in your fashion choices, then there are plenty of popping colors to choose from. So check out the links in the description below to find yours. And once again, a massive thanks to Ridge for their support. Now, we already touched upon the BMW S1000RR, but also getting some new bits for 2023 is the more premium homologation special equivalent, the M1000RR. And it has to be said, this is one striking motorcycle. The previous generation had the typical M Sport color scheme, but in this update, they've gone with a bare carbon finish, and they've also massively upped the size of those aero winglets, and the result is pretty eye-catching to say the least. Peak power though actually remains the same as the last generation, but it does go faster, and that's thanks to the revised aerodynamics. You see, while those aero winglets do generate a third more downforce, which of course helps with stability, the rest of the bike is super slippery to the point where the top speed goes up by 5 miles per hour to 195. Not only does a new taller windscreen help to smooth airflow over the rider, but there are some neat little features like those aero covers on the front wheel that all contribute. The rest of the bike is absolutely dripping with the latest in performance parts and cutting edge tech, and so if you want the ultimate BMW sports bike, then this is certainly it. Would you take it though, or for a few grand more, the KTM RC8C? Now, the first iteration of this bike was extremely popular. They announced it in 2021 with 100 bikes to be sold, and they all went on the website within 4 minutes and 32 seconds, despite that lofty price tag. But the new version smashed that time despite offering twice as many bikes and bumping up the price. So what makes it so special? After all, you can get an 890G car for a third of the price. Well, the RC8C is built by Extrema Motorcycles, a performance bike specialist founded by a former KTM employee, and they've left no stone unturned to make this the ultimate track bike. Firstly, the engine gets a massive overhaul, and it now makes 135 horsepower peak. The frame is bespoke and helps to cut the dry weight down to a super slender 142 kilograms. Suspension and brakes are of course top drawer race spec stuff, and there are forged wheels courtesy of Dimag. All the electronics have been stripped back and made track specific, and they've even moved the fuel tank to the tail section to help with weight distribution. But the icing on the cake is that 30 of the 200 customers will also get the chance to join KTM on a track experience day at Valencia, and with that you get a personal track setup with their technicians, as well as the opportunity to ride with some KTM GP legends. Sounds pretty incredible, although that will be an extra few grand on top of the bike, and I think it's fair to say that that puts the whole package massively out of reach for 99.9% of people. Fear not though, for a road-going version has been spied out testing, and we've got hold of the spy shots here, and I reckon it looks pretty incredible. The 890G car is one of the best road bikes I've ever ridden, and so if this sports bike equivalent does make it to production, it promises to be a heck of a machine, and hopefully for a fraction of the cost of the RC8C. I mean, to put into context of just how pricey that is, just 4 grand more will get you probably the most lusted after sports bike on the planet, and that's the Ducati Panigale V4R. Like the BMW M1000RR, this is a road bike, but it's absolutely crammed full of parts and tech that trickle down from their racing program, and for me, having seen it in the flesh recently at Motorcycle Live, I've got to say this is probably the best looking bike on this list. If you disagree, let me know down in the comments, although potentially number 10 on this list actually does edge it. Now, there are all sorts of incremental improvements across this bike for the new generation, but the headline figure is peak power, which really is quite incredible. You see, in stock form it makes 207 horsepower, which is a pretty good start, but with the track-specific Akropovich titanium full exhaust system, you unlock another 30 horses. But on top of that, if you use the shell oil that's been specifically designed for this engine, it reduces friction by 10%, and that'll get you another 3.5 horsepower. So that makes the total combined peak power figure 240.5, which is just absolutely bonkers. Completely unnecessary, more power than most riders could ever realistically use on the road, and most likely on the track as well, but still, I'm very glad it exists because it's basically the epitome of sports bike drool factor. Also in a similar ballpark though, we've got Aprilia's RS V4 Xtrenta, again another track-specific bike, but this one's based upon the RS V4 factory. But this one's developed by their Noali racing department, and it gets the absolute works thrown at it, as you'd hope, for 43 grand. So there's carbon bodywork with top-notch aerodynamics, race-ready suspension and brakes from Öhlins and Brembo, tweaks to the engine to get 230 horses out of it, an SC Project full system, Marcassini magnesium wheels, and Pirelli Diablo SBK tires. Super impressive and spectacular to look at, but perhaps it's a bit of a surprise that the track specials aren't topping this list. The Norton V4SV, for example, is marketed more so as a road bike with an emphasis on luxury, aesthetics, and exclusivity rather than out-and-out performance. I mean, don't get me wrong, you still get 185 horsepower peak from its 1200cc V4. There's super premium componentry and plenty of up-to-date techie features, but I think it's the finish that makes this bike look so special, either in this Manx silver version or the slightly more up-spec carbon edition with the carbon wheels. Whether it's the hand-polished frame and swing arm, the diamond stitch seat, this stunning top yoke, or the Union Jack tail section, there are plenty of little touches all over the bike that I'm sure will make it very special to own. But top of the tree, and I think on reflection probably a little bit more spectacular than the Panigale, it's the MV Agusta Super Veloce 1000, which they announced a few weeks back. It's one of 3 stunning bikes that MV announced ahead of the new model year, and so if you want the full details, you can get them by watching the video that I've linked to on the screen now. And if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.